Bonjour mes amis, and today on Part of My French, we're going to be talking about Whit Monday in France, as well as a little bit of Memorial Day, but just in the beginning. So today is Memorial Day in America, and it's the day that my country pays homage to its veterans and soldiers who died in war casualties. Most families are visiting relatives, or they're having barbecues, just celebrating whoever's in their family was a veteran of a war, or just mostly it's about festivities today. As well as tonight, we're gonna have fireworks in my hometown of DC, so I'm really looking forward to that, but it happens every year. But I just really like fireworks. And today is the official start of the awful white pants season till Labor Day. I'm not looking forward to that. So while children are playing outside here, today in France, it's a very interesting day actually. It's like 10:39 at night there, so I guess it doesn't really matter, but oh well, we'll talk about the day. Today in France, it is Whit Monday or Pentecost Monday. Pentecost Day is a religious holiday that is exactly 50 days after Easter, and it celebrates the descent of the Holy Spirit on the apostles. Pentecost is celebrated with feasts, and adolescent children usually go through confirmation. In Europe, the day of Pentecost is celebrated during the rose season. Therefore, some people used to throw rose petals from the revolts of a church, symbolizing the tongues of fire mentioned in the Act of the Apostles. Every year, during the weekend of Pentecost, a Catholic pilgrimage takes place from Notre Dame to Chartres Cathedral, known for its stained glass windows and Gothic design, and has been standing since 1220. This pilgrimage was 100 kilometers away. Looks like they had two other ways that were shorter, according to Google Maps, and took several days. In France, before the Revolution, the entire week after Pentecost was a public holiday. In 1801, the Concordat, or an agreement or treaty, especially one between the Vatican and a secular government, between Napoleon and Pope Pius VI, limited this period, and only Monday remained as a day off. In 2004, the government led by Prime Minister Jean-Pierre Raffarin made Pentecost Monday an unpaid workday. Facing strong public opposition, however, newly elected French President Nicolas, I will not pronounce his last name for fear of butchering, once again changed the rules in 2008. Pentecost Monday was reestablished as a day off, but Prime Minister Raffarin did have his reasons for the unpaid workday. The European heat wave was the hottest summer on record in Europe since the 1540s. The heat wave led to health crisis in several countries, combined with drought to create a crop shortage in parts of southern Europe. This severely affected wine regions in southern Europe and France, especially Bordeaux, which has over 75 different wineries. An increase in hot days during the flowering season was found to speed grape ripening, and resulting longer growing season correlated with lower productivity and lower quality grapes, devastating to wine production, which hit a 10-year low. France suffered roughly one-third of the resulting U.S. 16 billion or 13 billion euros in agricultural losses. All over Europe, the heat wave resulted in high casualties and a loss in GDP. In Portugal, between 1,800 and 2,100 heat-related deaths were reported. A freak storm developed in the southern region of the country. Over the next week, a hot, strong wind contributed to the speed of extensive forest fires. 5% of Portugal's countryside and 10% of its forests were destroyed, and 18 people died in the flames. In Spain, 141 deaths were reported. Record temperatures were broken in various cities such as Barcelona, Pontevedra, Burgos, Jerez, Girona, and many more. France was the country that was hit hardest by the heat wave. 15,000 elderly people died during the heat wave, and it was reported that there were 7 consecutive days where the temperature was above 104 degrees Fahrenheit. There are reasons for why the high death toll in the elderly population occurred. Most nights in France are cool, even in the summer, and I can attest to that as well. But as a consequence, houses, usually of stone, concrete, or of a brick construction, do not warm too much during the daytime and radiate minimum heat at night. and air conditioning is usually unnecessary in these houses. Many elderly who were physically and mentally impaired were unable to call for help or help themselves, so many of them died from heat stroke and hypothermia. In Switzerland, there were melting glaciers in the Alps that caused flash floods and avalanches. In Germany, 9,000 people died, mostly elderly, and had half of their normal rainfall. Many rivers were the lowest in centuries. In the Netherlands, no records were broken, but 1,500 heat-related deaths were reported, once again mostly the elderly. In the UK, the death toll was about 2,000, and records were broken in Kent and Greykirk in Scotland. Atlantic cyclones brought cool weather in late July and early August before temperatures started rising once again. The 2003 heat wave prompted the French government to devise a plan to help the elderly and people with disabilities. So they replaced Pentecost Monday with the Day of Solidarity in 2005. Pentecost Monday would no longer be a public holiday and instead an unpaid working holiday. The wages collected from the day would go to the financial support of the elderly and people with disabilities. However, there were demonstrations, and many people still treated the day as a public holiday, so they did not go to work. A heat wave broke out again in 2006, where there were 40 heat-related deaths, and helped to extend the Day of Solidarity for another 2 years. Pentecost Monday became a public holiday again in 2008. Negotiations are being made between the government and companies, organizations, and their social partners to financially help the elderly and people with disabilities.